Hey y'all, welcome back to the frying pan of the Crispy Fried Take Sports Podcast, where I give you some of the crispiest takes possible, or some that are just incredibly burnt. I'm your host Crispy, and just want to say thank you for all the 5-star reviews I've gotten since the first episode came out. And today in the frying pan, we have the March Madness bracket being released as I fill it out during the podcast, the crazy finish to the Players' Championship, the free agent signings in the NFL, the best Little Debbie snacks, and as always, to close out the show, what happened today in sports history? It's March 19th, 2024, so let's get sizzling. Selection Sunday took place over the weekend, and now we have a March Madness bracket, arguably the greatest time of the year. I am an addict to making brackets on ESPN. On the tournament challenge, you can make up to 25 brackets, and I make all 25 brackets. I also make women's brackets. I love it. The quest for a perfect bracket continues, and I think it's just amazing how no one has ever gotten. I mean, the odds are incredibly stacked against you. And this year we also had some snubs from March. A lot of conference tournament champs that weren't surprising. NC State won the ACC. I mean, they had a tough path. They beat North Carolina, Duke, Syracuse. I mean, Virginia. They had probably the toughest path to win it, and they weren't going to get in if they didn't win the ACC championship. So good for them, but they also were a bid stealer. Along with Oregon from the Pac-12. They're a bid stealer. They won their conference tournament. They weren't supposed to make it. And Drake was a bid stealer, kind of. They were like on the bubble to make it, but they beat out Indiana State. And basically, they're such a small they're one of the smaller conferences, so whoever won was going to obviously make it, but whoever lost probably wasn't. So it kind of hurts that Indiana State wasn't going to make it, because they've got this like big white dude who's like 6'10", huge. He's got the goggles, and his nickname is like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, because I mean he's amazing to watch. So it's a little bit of a bummer that he didn't make it in to March Madness with Indiana State. And Michigan State kind of surprisingly got in. They were a bubble team. A lot of people had them out. A lot of the projections on ESPN had them out, but they kind of got in. And some people are saying that, just because Tom Izzo has streak, Michigan State has, I think, the longest streak. They do have the longest streak, actually, of making March Madness. So I think they wanted to keep that alive, Tom Izzo and all of them. And so let's just get started on the bracket. I'm going to fill out my bracket right now during the podcast. And so we'll start out with the East region. The East region, this is a tough region. I don't know what they were deciding. They could have spread the top 4 or 5 of these teams out, and they could have put them in the other divisions to make it a little bit more competitive. This one's tough. You have UConn as the one from the Big East. They won their conference. They're back-to-back champions. You have, as the 2 seed, you have Iowa State, who won the Big 12 championship, over Houston, who was also like a projection natty winner. Iowa State came out of nowhere this year. They weren't even projected to like make March Madness or anything. They went undefeated at home. I mean, that's crazy. And then you have, who's the 3 in this division? Let me look. Who's the 3? Where's the 3? Oh, Illinois, the Big Ten champion in this. This is just the conference champion bracket, honestly. Because then you go to 4, and it's Auburn with Bruce Pearl. They won their conference championship. And then you have 5, San Diego State, who played UConn in the Natty last year. And they made it they didn't win the championship, but they made it to the championship of their conference. And anyone else? No, you don't have any other major conference champion winners in this bracket. But this is crazy. This is the most competitive one. So I don't see a lot of upsets in this one just because of how good it is, how loaded it is. Because the other conferences, they have like all the people that lost their conference championships. I feel like you could put Iowa State. You could argue Iowa State as a 1. I would make that argument. I know it's tough because all the other teams had a strong regular season. So did Iowa State, and they're just kind of name brands, so they put them as the 1. But I think Iowa State could probably beat I think they had a chance. They could have a chance against Purdue. They obviously beat Houston, but Houston just had the better overall regular season record. Then, I mean, Auburn could be a 2. Illinois could be another 2 seed, and then that's just crazy. So anyway, we'll start out. UConn versus Stetson's the first matchup. I can't help but feel bad for Stetson because they won the ASUN tournament. This is their first ever March Madness appearance. And over half, like they've never made it before, and this school's been competing for this for over half a decade. And I can't help feel bad for them because they're playing UConn, and so UConn's my pick to beat that. I'm looking at it right now. I don't think any 16 seeds are going to upset. I mean, I don't even know anything about them really. So, and I didn't know anything about the other ones, but I think a lot of these teams are, besides Houston, Purdue. North Carolina wants to go back to the championship. A lot of these teams, I don't think they're dead set on making it to the championship. They're not blown by the 16 seed like some of these other teams have. And then you have FAU and Northwestern. Now FAU was a Final Four team last year, and they kept everyone. They kept their coach. This is a returning team. Northwestern has back-to-back tournament appearances, so I don't know. This is like a 50-50. You go onto like ESPN's like little preview thing, and they say 9 seeds have won 13 of the 20 meetings with 8 seeds in the past 8 tournaments. So the 9 seeds are actually projected to win. And FAU didn't win their conference, but they were let in. But these are always tough because it's like, will they be how they were last season? They've kept the same team. Northwestern, I mean, they went back to their back-to-back NCAA appearances. I don't think they went far last season though. But I think I'll go with FAU. I think it would be cool to see them. Next we have San Diego State, UAB. San Diego State lost in the Mountain West Championship to New Mexico. This year they lost to the championship last year to UConn. I think they're eyeing UConn. I think they want UConn. UAB was a conference tournament winner of the AAC. They weren't even supposed to be here. They won the conference tournament, but I know they have not the best defense. So I think I'm gonna have to go with San Diego State. Like I said, this region is not going to have a lot of upsets. Auburn and Yale. You got Auburn, the SEC tournament winner, with Yale, the Ivy League tournament winner. Yeah, this is Auburn. I don't see Yale. Yale wasn't supposed to make it. They were another bid stealer in their conference. Princeton was the favorite to make it out of this conference, and they just didn't. Auburn just turned it up a notch in the SEC. They won it all. They played hard. They won. I think I've got Auburn from the East. Next, it's BYU versus Duquesne. Now, this is very interesting. BYU is a very strong team this season. They're playing in a better conference. They played in the Big 12. They've beaten Iowa State. They've played close with Houston. They've beat Baylor. They beat Kansas. They beat TCU. I mean, they have a strong argument on why they could make it to the Sweet 16. I mean, they're one of the top teams in offensive efficiency. I'm reading this off ESPN right now. They seem to not make a lot of mistakes, but Duquesne, they're on an 8-game win streak. That's about as good as momentum as you could have coming into this tournament. So this is hard because I feel like you could get an upset here. You very well could. I hate to go all favorites right now because I don't see anyone else getting an upset in this region. So you could very well have all the favorites win. I think you could make an argument for Duquesne in this. You know, I like upsets. I don't really care for BYU that much. So I'm going to go Duquesne. We're going to have some bias in here. Next, Illinois, Morehead State. I don't really see... I mean, I've heard arguments for Morehead State in this, that, but they have one person they have Riley Minix on their team who averaged 20.8 points per game, 9.8 rebounds per game, and 2.3 assists per game. But these guys, and they're like, people are saying that they're upset material. Apparently they match up well against Illinois. But I don't really see them upsetting Illinois. Illinois won the Big Ten. Now, I've picked Illinois before in previous Big Ten, or I picked them before when they've done well and made March Madness. I always pick them to go far. They always choke. So I don't really care for Illinois that much, but I don't see Morehead State winning. So next we have Washington State and Drake, the 7 versus the 10. Yeah, Drake kind of stole it from Indiana State, and I don't know how good Washington State is. Washington State's beaten Arizona. They've beat Utah. They beat Colorado. They beat Arizona twice, actually. Drake has played Indiana State. They've won. They've beaten them. They've played some high-quality, like, mid-major teams. So I'll pick Drake to win. I'll pick Drake to win over Washington State, but I would not be surprised if Washington State won that game. That's a 50-50 ball. And then Iowa State over South Dakota State. I mean, they've got Iowa State's got lockdown defense, and this is the first time they've been good in a while, and I just don't see them slowing down anytime soon. I just kind of feel bad for South Dakota State because they are a good team. Kind of. I mean, they're the best you could do out of a mid-major. They've beaten Wichita State. I think Iowa State will beat them by 10, honestly. Iowa State's just that good. And so the round of 32 in the East region, I've got UConn versus FAU. And I don't think FAU holds on any longer. I think UConn is going to win that one. FAU, I don't think can hold on that long. I know they have the same tournament team, but UConn is levels above most of this playing field. They are dominant. Their head coach is locked in. I've seen it all. I mean, if you look at all the reaction videos on YouTube of all the teams, UConn's ready to play some basketball. Next, we've got San Diego State and Auburn. Now, San Diego State, I like that team. I like Bruce Pearl's team. This is a 50-50 ball. I'm just going to go. I'm an SEC fan, and I like Bruce Pearl, so I'm going to go Auburn. I think Auburn can beat San Diego State. I know that's kind of crazy that FAU and San Diego State aren't going to play each other. That'd be really cool, actually, if they both won the round of 32 matchups and they're playing in the Sweet 16, but I don't see UConn losing. If UConn loses, the nation will be in shock because they have, on ESPN, they've got by far and away the most projections to win the tournament. And then you've got Duquesne versus Illinois. I'll go Illinois. I don't think Duquesne can make it to the Sweet 16. There's always one or maybe two teams that'll make it to the Sweet 16, and this division is so tough. I mean, Duquesne is playing BYU in the first round and Illinois in the second. I think they could win. I think they can beat BYU by a bit, but I think Illinois is going to be ready to come and play. Next, we have Drake and Iowa State. I've got Iowa State. I'm sorry, Drake. Iowa State is a really good team. And so in the Sweet 16 in the East region, it's number 1 UConn versus 4 Auburn, 3 Illinois versus 2 Iowa State. Now, I know this is top 4, so that's kind of lame, but I think this is the only division that I think will have that. Maybe later when I look at the rest, because I haven't really looked at the brackets that much, but I know a decent amount about college basketball. And so for the Sweet 16, 1 UConn versus 4 Auburn, I think this is a close game. I think this is close. I think Bruce Pearl's going to bring the energy, but I think UConn is just that team, and I'm going to pick UConn to beat Auburn. Then we've got 3 Illinois versus 2 Iowa State, and we're going to ride the Iowa State train. Illinois lets me down, and I think this is where they would let people down if they're projected to win. So I'll leave it at UConn and Iowa State. I'll do the Elite Eight after I do the rest of my round of 64 teams. So the West region, and before I continue any further, all the 12 seeds, I know I said San Diego State over UAB, but all the 12 seeds in this could arguably, I think you could argue with a lot of people that this could be the first year ever where all 4 12 seeds beat their 5 seeds. Because it is that good. But anyway, North Carolina, the playing team hasn't played yet, but North Carolina's winning. Now, Mississippi State versus Michigan State. I think I can guarantee the winner in this one, and it's going to be MSU. MSU is going to win that game. And now you're asking which MSU. Well, this is a controversial one. Michigan State barely got in. Like I said earlier, a lot of people argue that they shouldn't make it in. But I think Tom Izzo is going to have something to prove in this. So I've got Michigan State beating Mississippi State. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if I could be totally burned. I could get burned on this take. I think Mississippi State could easily beat them, but I think Michigan State is going to come ready to play. Now, I got St. Mary's versus Grand Canyon. Now, I saw Grand Canyon play at Tarleton. They're good. They've got some top tier. A lot of their players could play on a lot of the big schools, but they just came to Grand Canyon to play. And they've made March Madness 3 of the last 4 years. St. Mary's is good. It's the battle of the religions, actually. Grand Canyon's are both very Christian schools. And I just see St. Mary's has beat Gonzaga 2-3 times. They beat San Francisco. They beat Colorado State. GCU has an impressive resume. They barely lost to South Carolina. They've beaten San Diego State. They've beat Liberty. They beat Louisiana Tech. They've beat Seattle twice, who's in our division, who they play in the conference championship. I think Grand Canyon is going to beat St. Mary's. That's my upset. The rest of these divisions have upsets. Now, Alabama versus Charleston. Alabama kind of chokes in March Madness. Now, this is a high-scoring game from what I've seen. Elite guard play from this. You could honestly see the score be 100-100 in this, like 90s. I could see the score be 95-95, 95-94. But Alabama's kind of been a bit of a slide lately, and Charleston's been hit or miss. It honestly depends who just hits their shots, because both these teams lack defense, and if one team's on, one team's not, that other team is winning. The other team's defense isn't stopping them. So I wouldn't be surprised for a 12 and 13 seed play each other, but I'm going to go with Bama. I think Bama's kind of been able to deal with their lack of defense against better teams than Charleston has, so I'm going to go Alabama. Next, we got Clemson, New Mexico. New Mexico was a bid stealer. They beat San Diego State in the Mountain West. And for some reason, I don't know why, but the sports books have New Mexico State, the 11 seed versus 6 seed. They got New Mexico favored over Clemson, who's the 6th seed. I don't know why. They have that. So, actually, now I see ESPN, they've lost 3 of their last 4 to finish 10-10 over the last 20 games after they start 11-1. And they may not be able to get on a roll. Okay, that makes sense. New Mexico's hot. Clemson's not. We'll ride the wave. I like upsets more than the favorites. I always root for the underdog. So New Mexico. And then we've got 3 seed Baylor versus 14 Colgate. Now, Baylor lost early. I think they were the seed that lost early in last year's March Madness. It's always like that 1 seed that loses in the round of 32. It's kind of embarrassing. And I believe Baylor was that team last year, or they were like one of the top 3 seeds. And Colgate, they haven't really played anyone. I mean, they've beaten Arizona. Or no, they didn't beat Arizona. They lost to Arizona by 30. They beat Vermont. They lost to Illinois. I don't see them. I think Baylor's really wanting to make a run this year, so I've got Baylor. Next, we've got Dayton versus Nevada. Now, I said on my radio show that I thought Dayton was a Final Four team, and I don't know if I can hold up to that standard because they have one of the most efficient offenses, and they're very strong behind the three-point line. But I've seen Nevada just come out, and before I get on Nevada, the Flyers are 5-4 in their last 9 games. That's why I'm like questioning that right now, because when I picked them last month, they were on a roll. They look dominant. They look great. And Nevada's beaten TCU. They beat Utah State. They've beaten San Diego State. They beat Boise State. They beat UNLV, who's a bubble team. So I'm going to go with... I know I said on my radio show I would pick Dayton, but I'm going to go Nevada. I think Nevada's that team. Arizona versus Long Beach State. Now, this is an interesting game for me, at least. Long Beach State fired their head coach, or they didn't fire them. They mutually agreed to part ways after like 17 seasons working together, because they haven't made the tournament in 12 seasons. And then this season, they win their conference tournament with their head coach still working for them, knowing he's leaving after this season. They're in March Madness. And Arizona lets me down every single year I picked them. When I was in middle school, I picked Arizona to win it all one year in my bracket, and they lost in the first round. They were like a 2 seed, and they lost to a 15. They were 2 or 3, and they lost in the first round or second round or something, and I'm done with Arizona basketball. Arizona basketball is done to me. So I'm picking Long Beach State. I think that'd be a cool story. And now we'll go to the Elite Eight. So my West region, I've got 1 North Carolina versus 9 Michigan State. Oh, Now who would be the 1 seed to lose? I'm looking at U of H. U of H would either play Nebraska or Texas A&M in the South, and Purdue would either play Utah State. Utah State or TCU. That could be. Because there's always like that 1 seed that'll lose in the round of 32. It'll be really close. I don't know if North Carolina will do it. I think I could, because I like Baycott on North Carolina. I like that team. I really want them to do well. I don't like Duke at all. I don't like Duke, so having North Carolina win it all would just be amazing. So I'll go North Carolina. I'll go North Carolina on that. Now, Grand Canyon versus Alabama. I think Alabama chokes. I've seen Grand Canyon play, so there's a little bias. I've seen Alabama play on TV. I saw them kill A&M by 25 points one time in the regular season, but I've seen Grand Canyon play, and I think Grand Canyon has it in them. I think they want to do a lot better. I think they're a Sweet 16 team, and so I'm willing to pick them over Alabama. Now you got New Mexico versus Baylor. Now New Mexico could keep the hot streak up, but I think Baylor's wanting to play. I think Baylor's for real, so I'll go Baylor. And you got Nevada versus Long Beach State. And as much as I'd love to see Long Beach State win, Nevada's just that sneaky team. Nevada is sneaky. So that for my Sweet 16. So I got North Carolina versus Grand Canyon. I'll go North Carolina. Grand Canyon's kind of thing. And it's now Nevada versus Baylor. Could I see Nevada beating Baylor? I honestly could. Nevada is just a sneaky team. And this would be the first round this would be the second weekend after the first weekend, so this would be their first time playing. Ooh, you know what? I'll wait on that one. I'll see how the rest of the bracket goes on how many other, because there's always that one. There's like 2 higher seeds I feel like that make it. So now we'll go to the South. Houston versus Longwood. I don't even know anything about Longwood. I mean, who's Longwood even played? Are they like a legitimate? Oh, yeah. Okay. I don't even know any of these teams they've played that they say they win on ESPN. So this would be a great upset, but Houston's winning. So next up, we got Nebraska versus A&M. Now, the funny thing about this is that A&M hired Nebraska's athletic director. He left Nebraska, and the selection committee was like, let's be funny. Let's have Nebraska play A&M, not only in the men's, but the women's as well. And I'm a big fan of A&M. So I'm an Aggie. So like, there's a little bit of bias. I've seen A&M play a lot of games, and they're very streaky. Like, if Wade Taylor, if their guards are on, like if their guards are just playing lights out, nobody can stop them. But I've also seen Nebraska play, and they've got, I don't even know how to say his name, Kisi Tominaga, and this Asian dude is just unstoppable. I've seen. They beat Purdue, Ohio State, Wisconsin. A&M's beat Tennessee, Kentucky twice, but they haven't played anyone. They haven't beat anyone else. And A&M's on a little bit of they're a little streaky right now. They were up by 13 against Florida in the semis of the SEC tournament. And so I think, so they're on right now. They played themselves into this tournament, and I could see, I don't know. I'll go A&M. Why not? Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Nebraska won. Now, Wisconsin versus JMU, 5 versus 12. JMU's a good team this year. Wisconsin kind of played themselves into the tournament as well. They did well. They made it to the championship of the Big Ten. Barely lost to Illinois, so they're fighting. But I've heard JMU matches well against Wisconsin. They've beaten Michigan State. They beat Kent State. They beat Akron. They haven't played as many teams, but I think the Dukes have a great chance at beating Wisconsin, and they're favored to upset by a lot of people. But I think Wisconsin can pull it out. I think Wisconsin's going to beat that. I think Wisconsin could beat James Madison. Now we've got Duke versus Vermont, and I do not like Duke. I hate them. They're no fun to watch. They're cheap. I don't like Filipowski after all his little tripping drama. You're a 7-foot big man, and you're saying a girl would cause you an injury? No. And so Duke's good. Vermont is good. Vermont's okay. They won their conference tournament, but overall, if you're looking at their notable teams they've played, they're okay. They're okay. So I'll go Duke. I'll go Duke. I don't like Duke, but I think they'll beat Vermont. Now you got Tech versus NC State. Now Tech hasn't played as well recently, and I've got friends at Tech. And do you know how funny it would be if NC State beat them? Also, NC State won 5 games in 5 days to win the ACC. They're the first team that's ever done that, to win the ACC tournament. They played themselves into this tournament. They're ready to play. So I've got NC State beating Texas Tech. Now Kentucky versus Oakland. I think Kentucky. I've seen the face of John Calipari when they got the result. He's serious. He's playing for real this year. So I've got Kentucky over Oakland. Now, Florida versus Boise State, Colorado. That's a dangerous game. There's always one playing team that makes one of the two 10-seed playing teams that makes it to the Sweet 16, or they at least win their first game. And I think it could be here. It very well could be. 7. I don't really like Florida that much right now because they beat the A&M. So I'll go Boise State, Colorado. And Boise State, Colorado are both really good teams. So not saying that just to say that. Marquette versus Western Kentucky. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know much about this, so I'm going to go Marquette. And they're from the Big East, and that's a really good basketball conference. So I'm going to do that. Western Kentucky won their conference tournament, so they're in. Houston versus A&M. I think Houston wins. Unfortunately, my Aggies will not make it to the Sweet 16. Houston's just really good. And they lost the Big 12 championship, and that may have been the wake-up call they needed. You know how some teams need that? I got Wisconsin versus Duke. I'll be glad to see Duke lose in the round of 32. Ooh, Wisconsin. I'll go Duke. Now I'm being realistic a little bit. I'd love to. And all my other brackets I'll probably pick Duke to lose. But just for this realistic bracket, I'll pick Duke. Next we have NC State versus Kentucky. Oh, man, NC State, I watched them play North Carolina to win the ACC championship. They're such a fun team to watch. They really are. They're hilarious. They've got great team chemistry. Kentucky, streaky. Can they get the job done? Calipari's a little bit on the hot seat, so he really wants to play. But I don't know if they have that team this year. And I love NC State. I love seeing their story. So I've got NC State. Then Boise State, Colorado, or Marquette. I think this is the playing team that makes it to the Sweet 16, so I've got them playing against NC State. And now my Sweet 16, Houston over Duke. Duke finally loses. I think NC State just has that story going with them, and they'll beat the playing team of Boise State or Colorado. So finally, in the Midwest region, the final region of the March Madness bracket, and this is the upset region. I feel like there's a lot of possible teams and a lot of teams in this division that choke. There's a lot of teams in the division that upset. And so first off, it's Purdue versus their playing team. I'm gonna just click Purdue. Now I have Utah State versus TCU. Now I feel like both these teams are just dangerous. They love to play. They love to upset. They love to play them, I guess the bully, the mean person to these teams. They like to upset them. Now TCU, I mean, they're simple. They're just they seem to play just simple basketball. And I like them, but I also like Utah State. And I think Utah State could pull it out against TCU. So we're going to go that. Now Gonzaga versus McNeese State. McNeese has Will Wade as their head coach. They had I think single digit wins. They had single digit wins last season, and now they're 30-3. Which Gonzaga's 25-7. Now McNeese has one of the easier schedules in the nation. Like they beat UAB by 21, who was in the tournament. I mean, they beat VCU. They don't have any notable wins, but McNeese is dangerous. And a lot of people are picking McNeese. I think whichever team I think Gonzaga or McNeese, whichever of these teams win, will make it to the Sweet 16. So the Zags, no one talks about them. I had this theory one year, like when everyone talks about the Zags, they just choke. But when the Zags are under the radar. So I'd be willing to put, and of some of my other brackets, I'd pick the Zags. I think McNeese covers the spread in this game. If you were betting on this game, I think McNeese covers the spread. So I'm going to pick Gonzaga, but McNeese, I would not be surprised if they win this game. Next, we have Kansas versus Stanford. Now, Kansas has two of their players hurt. Their star players were hurt for the conference tournament. They're coming back bruised. Stanford likes to press. They like to play that type of ball. There's that small ball team that just will like to press. I think Kansas, I don't think this is their year. Oh, man. I don't think this is their year. So I'm going to go Stanford. That's my upset. South Carolina, Oregon. Oregon won the Pac-12, but I've seen South Carolina play on TV, and I think South Carolina is just better. I don't think Oregon can keep it up. And the Pac-12 is not a strong conference as the SEC this year. Now, Creighton and Akron. There's always that one MAC team. That's Akron. I guess Akron's really the only MAC team that made March Madness. And there's always that one team that plays upset, but I don't think against Creighton. Creighton's that other Big East team, and they're good. They got upset early in the Big East tournament, and so I believe in Creighton. I like Creighton. They're from Nebraska, if you didn't know, actually. Wait, no, they're not from Nebraska. Oh, holy cow, I'm wrong. I'm going to look that up. Creighton is not from Nebraska. I thought they were. No, they're not. Creighton. Where is Creighton located? Where is Creighton University? Oh, no, it is in Omaha, Nebraska. I was right. I was right. And so anyway, I'll pick Creighton. They're a Big East team. They're smaller. Now, next we have Texas versus Virginia, Colorado State. Now, Virginia is a little questionable that they made the play-in tournament. Colorado State's kind of sneaky. But I think Texas will win, regrettably. I think Texas will win. Now, Tennessee versus St. Peter's. This is an interesting game because St. Peter's played upset 2 seasons ago. And Tennessee also chokes. So I would not be surprised if St. Peter's could pull it off again. The Peacocks could win again. I would not be surprised on this. But I think there's a completely different team. I'm going to go Tennessee, but I want to be surprised if St. Peter's covers the spread. And so next we have Purdue versus Utah State. I know I said this was upsets. I didn't even pick that many upsets, but I think Purdue, everyone's saying they'll choke this year again. I don't think they'll choke as much as people are thinking. I think Gonzaga beats Samford. I think South Carolina over Creighton. South Carolina has a miraculous year, but I like Creighton a lot. I'm going to get some. Oh my goodness. I think. Creighton or South Carolina. That's a difficult decision. I'm going to go with. I'll go with Creighton, but I wouldn't be surprised. South Carolina cover the spread. That's a cover the spread kind of game. And then Texas or Tennessee. I think Texas may win that. Although I like Dalton Connect on Tennessee's roster. I like the team chemistry. Actually, I'll go Tennessee. Okay, in the Midwest, Purdue or Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga beats Purdue. I think Creighton beats Tennessee. And so now we're in the Elite Eight. And now we'll go back to the East. I think I've made my mind. I think Baylor's going to beat North Carolina. Baylor's going to beat NC State. No, not NC State. What am I talking about? I'm getting distracted. Baylor's going to beat Nevada to play North Carolina in the Elite Eight. So UConn's already in the Final Four. I have them over Iowa State, but I would not be surprised if Iowa State makes the Final Four and they're the one team that can upset them. Their defense is incredible. I think, Baylor, North Carolina. I think North Carolina. I think it's going to be 2 1 seeds in the East and West, but I wouldn't be surprised if Baylor makes it. Houston versus NC State. I think NC State's fun run comes to an end. Then Gonzaga versus Creighton. Either or, but I'm going to go Gonzaga. And I think it's going to be my Final Four, UConn or North Carolina. I think North Carolina beats UConn. I think Gonzaga. I think Houston beats Gonzaga. And and this is the same. Oh, man. UConn. This is just pure guesswork at this point, but I've got UConn or North Carolina, Houston, Gonzaga. I'll go North Carolina, but I think UConn could go back to back. Actually, you know what? I'm going to pick UConn over North Carolina. They're just that team. And I'm going to go Houston over Gonzaga. Actually, I'll go Gonzaga over Houston, and UConn goes back to back and winning the national championship. And that is going to be my March Madness prediction. I'm going to click submit. I think UConn's the winner in that tournament. Now, I'm not going to fill out the women's bracket, but I'm going to take a peek at it because I think this will be the best year for women's college basketball in a long time. In a very, very long time. Because you've got Caitlin Clark, South Carolina's got that team ball, and I think they're a great team. I'm looking at the bracket now. South Carolina and women's basketball, I don't think you get as many upsets as men's. So South Carolina's going to make the Final Four in that region. Texas, they're a 1 seed. Texas is going to come back as the 1 seed, and Texas is another 1 seed, and they've got Stanford. So I could see Stanford and Texas playing, and I could see either or. And Iowa, obviously, who's their 2 seed? They got LSU in that region, UCLA as well. But I'm gonna go Iowa. We'll take it to the Final Four then. And Region 3's got USC. You got UConn in that. I think UConn is gonna. USC is a relatively young team. They got Ohio State in that. So my Final Four, I'm gonna go South Carolina, Texas. Now, it could be Stanford, but I'm going to take Texas, Iowa, and I'm going to take UConn in that region. And I think it's Caitlin Clark's here, so I'm going to have Iowa go all the way and win the championship in women's college basketball. I think it's Caitlin Clark's here. She's going to the draft next year. That's just my take. That is the crispy fried take of March Madness. Let me set the stage for you. You're world number 1. You're Scotty Scheffler. You're trailing the final round by 5 shots. You're the previous Players Tournament champion. This is the 5th major, the best tournament that's not a major, to prep you for Augusta. You're behind the Open champion, the U.S. Open champion, an Olympic champion. How do you do? Well, Scotty knew what he was doing, because he shot a bogey-free 64 at 8 under for a total of 20 under total for the tournament to win by 1 shot, which is just incredible, considering how difficult hole 17 and hole 18 are, arguably one of the toughest 2-hole stretches in golf. So anyway, he was behind Brian Harmon, the Open champion, Wyndham Clark, the U.S. Open champion, and Alexander Schauffele, the previous Olympic champion, and they were all ahead of him. Those were the main 4 players. Those 3 and Scotty going into that round. And Brian Hartman really couldn't get it together at the end. Schauffele couldn't get it done on the last hole. But so it was really between Wyndham Clark and Scotty Scheffler. Oh, my goodness. And Clark on the last hole. Scotty was so far behind that he finished like an hour before these guys finished. So Clark knew where he was. And on the 18th hole, on one of the toughest holes, it's a dogleg left with water on the left, trees on the right, demands a golf shot. And Wyndham Clark did it. And he got to the green. He was 17 feet from the pin. And he hit his putt for birdie. And it went in and then out. Like 75% of his putt, like 75% of the ball went in the cup. And it went out because he hit it slightly too hard, which led to Scotty Scheffler winning back-to-back tournaments with a stick neck, and he's the first ever repeat champion. Nobody else, not even Tiger, has won this tournament back-to-back. That's how dominant Scotty was. He also took home roughly $8.5 million because he won the Arnold Palmer invitation the week before. So he's on a roll. And I love the Players' Championship. It's an amazing tournament to watch. All the best players show up, not, I guess, anymore because Liv, but like all the best players on the tour show up. And it's personally one of my favorites, and it really gives you a good look on who's the best, who's ready to play for the Masters. And speaking of the Masters, Jon Rahm released literally 4 hours ago his Champions Dinner menu because the Masters on April 9th. So it's coming up. And here's Jon Rahm's Masters menu. Now, he's from Spain, granted, so I can't pronounce any of this. But basically, I don't know, for appetizers, you can have some stew, some potato, some small pork loin, black truffle. These appetizers, I can't say the Spanish pronunciation of this. For the first course, he's serving crab salad, potato, and you have your choice of a ribeye with lettuce and peppers or like some fish with white asparagus. And for dessert, the most important thing is the puff pastry cake and custard and chantilly cream. Wow. That sounds pretty good. That's going to make me hungry now. And so that's his Masters dinner. It looks pretty good. If I was doing the Masters dinner, now being from Texas and everything, I'd go barbecue and Mexican like Jordan Spieth has done. That would be mine. And so Jon Rahm deserves it. He's from Spain, so whatever the Spanish version of that is what's on the Masters Club dinner. Thankfully, they have like context below so you can understand what it is. And so, leading into that, who's going to win the Masters? We've got really here's my Masters tournament predictions. I've got a lot of guys on here, but I'll boil it down. It's got Scotty, obviously, he just won the Players. He just won one of the best tournaments. He's won back-to-back. He's hot. He's got the putter going. He didn't have the putter going last year. Now he has the putter going. I've got Jon Rahm, who's the best player on the Live Tour. He was arguably better than Scotty last year. Got Brooks, who always shows up for majors, and he really wants that green jacket. Victor, he kind of shows around in the majors. He's iffy, but he'll always make a name for himself. Ludwig, the rookie on tour, is really good. And Will Zalatoris is back from injury. And remember, he made a name for himself after going second place in the Masters a few years ago. And Joaquin Niemann got a sponsor's exemption to the Masters from Liv because he was playing so good. So out of those guys, who do I think will make it? I think you have to go with the two obvious picks on this one, Scotty and Jon Rahm. I think they're here to play. Now, my sneaky pick would be Ludwig. I really do like Victor, though. Ludwig is a stud. I think this tournament can suit him. I think this tournament sort of suits him a little better than some of the other major courses. He's just accurate. He's long. I think he can get it done. If he can get the putter going a little bit, he can play well. And so that's who I think for the Masters. Those are my, I guess you could say, Masters tournament predictions. I'm excited for that week. I'm not going to be doing any school. I'm just going to be watching that. And it will be a great time to watch some golf. Because that's my take on the Players' Championship, little recap on that, and the Masters. It'll be a great time for golf this coming spring. So now, going over the NFL trade news, I talked about Russell Wilson last week, and I thought he was going to Atlanta, but I was wrong. That was one of the teams. That was the team I really thought. He actually went to the Steelers, which is a little surprising. But from what I've seen, I can understand Mike Tomlin's over there. And, it really is a fresh start for Russell Wilson. And now there's a little bit of drama over the backup quarterback. You have Kenny Pickett, who's a Pittsburgh native, a Pennsylvania native. He went to school at Pitt. That they use basically the same facilities as the Steelers. He did not like Russell Wilson coming in. He didn't like Russell Wilson. Now, Kenny Pickett was a rookie quarterback who started. He kind of got thrown into the flames. And he didn't want to learn. He went to the Eagles. For some reason, I don't even understand. He went to the Eagles. He's going to be a backup longer at the Eagles than he would at the Steelers. Because Jalen Hurts is obviously going to start. They got the tush push going. Kenny Pickett's not playing. So he kind of ducked its tail and ran away. Now, their backup quarterback was surprising. They traded for Justin Fields. So they got the Chicago Bears quarterback, who's pretty good, who's really good actually. And he never had a good team around him. And now he can finally sit and learn, which was what Pickett was supposed to do, but he wanted to leave. So Justin Fields is now the backup Russell Wilson. I think this is great for Justin Fields' career. He can finally play, or he can finally just learn instead of just having to take it on head on, biting the bullet every time. And so now that Russell Wilson's at the Steelers, who's the Falcons quarterback, well, Kirk Cousins decided not to sign with Minnesota and sign with the Falcons, which is a pretty good deal. He's got the Falcons are pretty incredible because they got Kyle Pitts, you've got Drake London, you've got Bijan Robinson, and they've got a pretty good defense with a new head coach. And it's funny that Kyle Pitts and Kirk Cousins wear the same number, and there was a little debate on who would get the number, and Kyle Pitts was like, "From all you have to do to take the number is just throw me the ball," because he never got thrown the ball. Just throw me the ball. That's all he wanted. But Kirk Cousins didn't even take the number, but he's got 18 now, I believe, and so I'm excited for that team. And this is a weak division with the Bucks, Panthers, and Saints. I mean, they're all kind of struggling a little bit. Besides the Bucks, it'll be really a competition between two teams, the Falcons and the Bucks, so you'll make the playoffs out of that division. So that's kind of how it is. That's kind of how it is for Russell Wilson. The Russell Wilson, where will he go? Where won't he? And that's kind of like from building off of like my last episode. That's kind of where it lands for Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins. I think the Steelers will actually they'll have a winning record. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing record. I think that'll continue with Russell Wilson. And some other NFL news, sadly, Aaron Donald retired, a beast of a man, a beast of any NFL player. You need to look up those YouTube clips of Aaron Donald. I mean, as a rookie, he was throwing people around. In college, he was throwing people around. He's a beast. It's sad he retired, but he got his ring, and understandably, defensive tackles, like, the line is like getting hit by a car every single time the ball snaps. You're just going at these other 300-pound guys with insane strength. And the Cowboys. Tyron Smith signs with the Jets. The Cowboys have not signed anyone. No one. They've signed like 2 people. Really no one. It's just absolute blasphemy that the Cowboys can't get considered. Now, I know we're going to have to pay people because we're saving, because we don't know what we're going to do with Dak. We have to sign CeeDee Lamb, to sign Michael. We have to sign Zach Parsons. We have to sign a ton of people next season. So we're not going to sign anyone. And guess what? We're not going to get any better. That's concerning. And I don't know what we're going to do next season. It's so sad. And the line's going to be a little weaker. We just have to use this draft. We just have to get this draft right like we did with Micah's draft. So I'm concerned for the Dallas Cowboys. For my sanity, I'm concerned for it. Now the Bears, they got rid of Justin Fields. So now everyone can assume they're loading up for Caleb Williams. And they've made some moves, actually. They've actually got a pretty good team. This is like the first ever Bears team that is actually looking decent. Now, they're all relying on Caleb Williams to be good, so no one really... Because college, while he played at USC, Pac-12 had no defense, but Caleb Williams looked really, really good. Won the Heisman last year. And so they got Keenan Allen from the Chargers, who's a great... He's a little older, but he's a little injury-prone, but he's a solid playmaker. He's solid. He can catch the ball well. They also have DJ Moore, who's a wide receiver 1. They also have DeAndre Swift, who's a great running back. They're looking like a good team. They may... Now, the Packers rebuilt really well last season. The Vikings, we'll see what happens with their quarterback. And we'll see. Who's... Oh, my gosh. I can't think of the other... Oh, the Detroit Lions. Why? That's going to be a good division, actually. That's going to be a good division. And so does that mean... So that team that's going to be a tough division to win. But I think the Bears are taking finally a step forward instead of just staying in the same place and going backwards and their quarterback's just getting injured, being bust and everything. I think they're finally doing it right. And it's good that Justin Fields got out because it wasn't him. It was Chicago. And with the Chargers, they were over the cap space. They got Jim Harbaugh, but are they done for? Because who's Justin Herbert throwing the ball to? They got rid of all their playmakers. Like, all their offense is gone. So it'll be interesting to see what the Chargers are going to do. I don't know. I think they're going to not be good for at least a year. Jim Harbaugh's going to rebuild him. I think he'll do well, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. And the running backs, oh my gosh. Saquon was done with the Giants. He went to the Eagles. He's like, I'm done with y'all. I'm sick of losing, and I'm going to stick it to you by going to the Eagles. That's what basically he did, because Saquon signed to the Eagles. Derrick Henry, okay, this is also how bad the Cowboys screwed up. Derrick Henry bought a house in Dallas. He bought a house in Dallas to stay closer to some of his family, I believe. And the Dallas Cowboys didn't even pursue to offer him. Derrick Henry's a beast of running back. He's probably, I know he got injured, he's a little older, but he's still a beast. He's throwing people around. He's like an Aaron Donald running back. He's a beast. And the Dallas Cowboys were like, we're like, no, I'm getting sick talking about this. The Dallas Cowboys were like, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're not going to pursue anyone that could better our team, because that's not like us. That's not like Jerry Jones. He doesn't want to pursue anyone that's better than the team. He'd rather just take a risk on draft picks. And some of them work, but some of them don't. And I'm just, man. So Derrick Henry went to the Ravens, so the Ravens are going to get better. They lost Hollywood Brown. He went to the Chargers. Or not the Chargers. He went to the Chiefs, but I think the Ravens are still fine. They're going to draft some wide receivers in this draft, so they'll be okay. And then another not in conference, but the Vikings picked up Aaron Jones, and they got oh my gosh, Josh Cobbs. They got Josh Jacobs. What am I thinking? The Packers got Josh Jacobs, and Aaron Jones was like, I'm out of here. He's going to the Vikings. So he went to the Vikings. He was bitter too. He was just as bitter as Saquon was. He's like, I didn't get told either that y'all are traded for these running backs and y'all are just getting rid of me. So he decided to sign with the Vikings. So a lot of people in the NFL are sticking it to their former teams, or at least trying to stick it to the former teams. So it'll be an interesting NFL season, and it's not over yet. There's still free agency. There's still players that are going to get traded. So we're not done yet, and this draft isn't over yet. So it'll be crazy to see if Caleb Williams does not get drafted first pick. That'll be crazy. It'll also be interesting who the Commanders pick up. This will be one of the most interesting off seasons ever. And so that's my take on the NFL. Now, time for probably my favorite segment, actually. Instead of talk about sports, let's just rank some random things. So on this episode of From Burnt to Chrispy, we have the Little Debbie products. And I took 5 of probably the most popular ones. And so on today's list, we have the Swiss Miss rolls, the oatmeal cream pies, the cosmic brownies, the Nutty Buddies, and the zebra cakes. So on my burnt, absolutely burnt, horrible, horrible, horrible. I don't like them. I don't know why people like them. The cosmic brownies. Now, I'm not a big brownie fan in general, but one time in elementary school, I saw like a bug in one, and I'm done with them. I'm sorry. They don't even look good. I don't understand why people like them. So that's burnt. That is very burnt to me. Very burnt. Like, gone. Okay, now fourth is kind of trouble. Oh. I think this is going to be controversial. Zebra cakes are going in the 4. Zebra cakes are good, but I feel like they're hit or miss. They're kind of like Popeyes from my last episode. They're like either really good or really bad. Because I've had some really good ones, have some really bad ones, and most of the time they're good, but sometimes they're bad. Zebra cakes are going to take the cake for the 4 seed. I got 3. We got Nutty Buddies, oatmeal cream pies, and the Swiss Miss rolls. I'm going to go Swiss Miss rolls as 3. Now, the best thing that I like to do is put the Swiss Miss rolls in the fridge, let them cool up a bit, and it tastes amazing. But I think compared to the oatmeal cream pies and Nutty Buddies, I think that's a solid spot for Swiss Miss rolls. I think they're better than zebra cakes, and I think they're way better than cosmic brownies. And so now we got 2 left. We've got the oatmeal cream pie and the Nutty Buddies. Now this is tough, but recently, this is recency bias. When I was growing up, oatmeal cream pies would take the case, but nowadays, I think they're second. I think oatmeal cream pies are second. So that means the crispiest, the best Little Debbie product has to be the Nutty Buddies. Those things are It's like a crispy bite every time you take. Like there's a crunch every time you take a bite, and that's something I love. I don't think any of these other products give you that. They're good. They got the peanut butter, the rich flavor. I think they're made right. They're good. I don't think you can get sick of them. They're really good. And I don't care for sugar as much as I used to, but I still will devour those things. So that's my take. So the burnt is the Cosmic Brownies by far. There's like a gap. Because those are very burnt. And we go 4 zebra cakes. Close behind the zebra cakes are the Swiss Miss rolls. And then close, 4 through 1 are very close. And then you've got oatmeal cream pie. And then the Nutty Buddies are clearing away number 1 by far. That is from burnt to crispy. And finally, today in sports history, on March 19th, and way back when in 1995, on this day, Michael Jordan returned to the Chicago Bulls after nearly 2 years of retirement. He scored 19 points in a loss to the Indiana Pacers, but the game televised on NBC was one of the most watched regular season games in NBA history with an estimated 35 million viewers. Now, they may have lost that game, but little did those people know, 2 rings were coming on MJ's finger after that. Because he's still better than LeBron. And I just want to say thank you for listening to this episode of the Crispy Fry Takes podcast. Thank you for listening to episode 2. Hopefully you can give us a follow on whatever media platform you're listening to, and keep on listening because it's only going to get better. First episode's kind of the starting point. Second episode, we're going to build off of that, get better. We're just going to keep on getting better. So I hope you just let this episode sizzle in a little bit, and I'll catch you here next week with me. Thank y'all, and have a good one.